Right, Weston, you want to kick us off?
Sure, let's do it. Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday, August 31st. This is MS Office Hours. Let me please introduce our hosts.
Hey, everyone. I am Heather Cox.
I'm Victoria Dean.
Hey, I'm Garrett Chandler.
And I'm Andrea Singh-Rio. We are super excited for today's session. We have Sutton, Jared, and Mike all here to talk about Bing Chat Enterprise for faculty. So I'm going to hand it over to them.
Great. Jared, are you here?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And can everyone see the slides?
You are good.
Okay. Jared, just let me know when to move. Slides are up.
All right. I will. Why don't we just go to the next slide? So just by way of introduction, my name is Jared Anderson. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for Bing Chat Enterprise. I'm sure that the world of generative AI has been making everyone's lives interesting on this call. We've just seen an incredible rate of adoption across so many dimensions. Certainly, we see lots of people using it at home. We have seen people using it at work, and we see people using it at school. And so, as a company, we made a major investment some time ago in a company called OpenAI, which released ChatGPT. And back in February, we made some announcements about a product called Bing Chat that essentially took GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 and paired it with a search index to give the ability for people to be able to not just ask questions to a large language model, but actually ask questions about that was relevant to all of the information that existed in the public web, and to be able to get very direct answers the same way you, hopefully in a better way, in fact, than you would from a search engine, and similarly get citations and links to the information that you get in those results. So if you can just go to the next slide. So I think, again, with that partnership with OpenAI has been really, I think, instrumental in helping us think about how we fundamentally change the way in which people search for information. For years and years, I'll say decades at this point, the primary way that we would go find things on the web was to type 2 or 3 words into a search engine, pick your favorite one here, whether it be Bing or Google or DuckDuckGo or any other, and essentially get back a list of blue links through which you would hunt and peck to find an answer to your question. And our experience has been through a variety of studies that 50% of the time when people search for something in a search index, they don't find an answer. And even still, it can take quite a bit of time to get at the answer. And our feeling is that by using generative AI to improve the way people search for information on the web, we can really change that experience so that people are able to get direct answers to their questions, rather than having to search through a bunch of pages. Next slide. So after introducing Bing Chat back in February, I had conversations with a large number of organizations, schools, large enterprises, small businesses, many of whom said, hey, this technology is really interesting, and we're absolutely certain that our employees are probably using it. But we're concerned because we don't really understand, or we don't really have any control over what people might be putting into those prompts to get answers. And we're concerned that people might be putting sensitive data, IP, that we have, or other information that might be considered private to the organization. And we want to make sure that there is no way in which people who are employees, when they put this information in, there's any risk of that data being leaked out, either leaked in a way that it's used to train the underlying large language model or something along those lines. So last month, on July the 18th, we announced Bing Chat Enterprise. We announced that this was going to be an offering, one was that it would ensure that your organizational data did not leak. Second, we made a very clear assurance that we were not going to save any of the chats or any of the information that was put into it. And lastly, as a result of that, as a result of not logging or maintaining any of that data, none of it would get used to train the underlying large language model. So really trying to squarely address those concerns about data leakage. And at that time, back in July, we announced that it would be available at no additional cost for organizations that had Microsoft 365 E5 business standard and business premium licenses. And then last week, we announced that we were expanding that eligibility to Microsoft 365 A3 and A5 faculty licenses as well.
Hey, Jared,
you have-
I'm so sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you, but you are breaking up all over the place, and I think we're having a challenge hearing you. I don't know if you're stationary or not. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Thanks for letting me know. Is this better?
Getting there.
Is it better? Oh, does not sound better. I sound like a robot?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I can get I'm gonna see if I can improve my connection. Give me 2 seconds. Apologies. Is this better? Thank goodness for captions. Sutton, I might need you to take over until I can fix this. Is that all right?
Yeah, can everyone hear Jared okay, or do you want me to take over for a second?
I think it might be
FM
easier
radio
if you
for
take
Sutton.
it. Yeah.
All right, I'll just
sorry.
chat for now, and
Go ahead,
Jared can hop back in when he can. So just building on what Jared
Apologies.
mentioned, just a couple weeks ago now, we did announce that we expanded availability to A3 and A5 faculty users only at no additional cost. And so this is what the experience will look like for your users once you enable it. I will note specifically that right now, you will need to go either turn it on or choose to opt out. So anyone with those licenses can go activate it today. It won't be default on until late September. You'll still have the opportunity to opt out after that if you need to, but right now you do need to go turn it on to be able to use it. So once you do have it activated, this is the experience your faculty users will see. So as long as they have that faculty license, it could be staff or anyone that fits under that. You'll see a couple things on the screen, and this is once they go to bing.com/chat. As long as they're logged in with their work account, they'll see that green pill icon up in the top right that says protected. For our Edu users, you'll also see some Edu-friendly prompts up there. And again, a reminder at the bottom that tells them your personal and company data are protected in this chat. So that is what it should look like once you have enabled BCE and turned it on. And to, I think, one of the questions in the chat, yes, if you do nothing today, it will go default on towards the end of September. If you'd like to opt out for any reason, you can do that now or after the fact as well. But by the time we hit default on, any of those users who are A3, A5 faculty and go to bing.com/chat, this is the experience they'll get with their work account. And in terms of ads associated with answers, there are ads, but they are non-targeted, not based on any of your information, just the prompt itself. And Jared can speak more to that as well. Yes, you will see some recommendations to that point, Carlos.
Is my audio better? Or no?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
much
Yeah,
better.
sounds
Better,
better.
Jared. Thank you.
Much better.
Okay, I'm very sorry about that. Apologies. So maybe I could expand a bit on that question regarding ads. Yes, we do display ads.
Yeah.
The ads are related just to whatever query has been triggered in that moment. There's no personalization or no persistence of information about who you are in terms of how we're showing those ads. They're just in the moment, displayed by what happens in the moment.
Great.
Anyhow,
And
just coming back to the slides, I think again, I think we've talked through much of what it is the product does, and also what it doesn't do, in the sense that we're not recording data or persisting it following the chat session. I think that's really a key point of what this is relative to the consumer Bing chat experience that people may be using today. Do we want to take questions? More questions?
There's a comment on a bit of pushback on ads. And Carlos, do you want to expand on that and any concerns you have?
Well, yeah, thank you. I think in our faculty, just the fact that, we will see advertising of one form or another creeping into the use of a campus technology, so to speak, that they will perceive we are already paying for. We are getting monetized on top of that with, book recommendations and whatnot, right? So it's something to keep in mind that universities are paying for the service in one way or another, and so to deliver it with ads on top of that may not sit well with our faculty.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, and I will say a lot of thought went into this particular piece of it. And I think there were a couple of factors that went into the decision. One is for most organizations that today access any form of search engine, or they're asking of their
Garrett's turning into Mr. Roboto again.
So first, oh no, not again. I'll keep talking, but let me know if it gets. Hopefully, it does not get worse. And then the second thing is that we thought through about this experience is that we're providing what is actually a fairly unique service. If you want to access GPT-4 as a large language model from OpenAI, it's typically a service you pay $20 for to be able to access at this level. And we're including it in existing licenses the customers have already paid for at no additional cost. And so our thinking was this will be an incredible value, and yes, we'll monetize the experience in the same way that we typically monetize other web chat or web search experiences that we have.
Jared, another question for
But
you
I think
is,
go ahead.
Will we be able to use BCE with other browsers?
Yes, absolutely. So as of now, Bing Chat Enterprise works with both Edge and Chrome. In the very near future, we will support Safari and Firefox as well. And that will extend to mobile versions of those browsers also. Other questions?
I see another one in the chat on, is there any way to see prompts made by students or staff, suicide, self-harm, other awful prompts? And I will quickly add that this is not available to students today. And then Jared, if you want to start the response to the rest.
Yeah, it's a great question. It was the first thing I was going to say, but the second thing I will say is that actually Bing Chat, through our responsible AI principles, is very sensitive to topics like this. I actually would highly recommend you test it out, try it, ask it questions related to these topics. What you'll notice is that right away, it will make recommendations to the user that they get contact medical assistance or professional help, depending on the topic that they bring up. It will not try to be your therapist, but it will definitely try and present resources to you that will help. As we don't retain chat history, none of those chats are maintained by us, and in turn, they're not available to the organization as well at this time. Great question, though. Other questions?
Hey, Jared, there's
See,
a good
Rob.
question in the chat. When in September will this become default on in environments? And is there a way to roll out a pilot group to begin with and then the whole org?
So great question. Let me start with the second part, and then I'll go to the first part. So starting in early September, I think it's the 12th. We will add Bing Chat Enterprise as a service plan in Microsoft 365. Once that is done, you'll have the ability to determine which users and which groups within your organization have access to the service. So at the present time, we don't actually have controls in the Microsoft 365 admin center. We literally have like a URL that's a global turn on for your tenant and a global turn off for your tenant. But starting, I believe, on the 12th, we will have the service plan launched. You'll be able to use that to have much more fine-tuned control. And of course, in usual fashion, I've forgotten what the first question was.
I think it was when it'll be active. And so, Deb, it'll be no earlier than
yes.
September 21st.
That is right. It's the 21st.
Rob, your hand went down. Is that your question?
No, I forgot to put it down from the prior question, but I do have another question, and that is
Go for it.
BAAs and BCE. How to have that conversation with customers? Is it planned to be covered under BAA in the future or not? Or what kind of coverage does it have? I used to have varying levels that you could easily find what app is covered under what level.
For once, I don't actually know the answer to a question. Sutton or Mike, is this something you're aware of?
What was the first acronym? BA. I don't know what a BAA is actually. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. The Business Associates Agreement. It's basically the agreement that all of our stuff is protected. You have the appropriate securities in place. As long as we have the appropriate securities in place as customers. And I know at some point there was products like, say, Sway that wasn't covered under the BAA. And then as they got, folded into applications, they would be covered under those. I don't see those documents much anymore, but I didn't know if it would be covered at a later date.
Then I can't answer this. The answer would be no. Bing Chat Enterprise has its own set of terms and conditions as it applies to privacy and protections. It is not terms and conditions of other agreements you might have in place already, whether it be the BAA or others, do not apply.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason for that is because it operates as a public service. So meaning that this does not operate inside your tenant boundary as part of my. It is still Bing Chat, but we're essentially putting a wrapper around it that has this level of data protection and the ability to sign in with Active Directory and to manage it. But it is still in essence, a Microsoft controller service. But we're also assuring you that we're not maintaining maintaining the data beyond the chat session.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Hope that helps, Rob.
It did.
Great. Other questions?
I think we've gotten the ones that are in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And apologies again for the audio issues. I'm really sorry about that.
Rob's hand is back up. You have another question, Rob?
Yeah, I do. So, Jared, do you have? Yeah, sorry. I just know the questions that I'm going to get from my manager. The protections and privacy and those kinds of terms and conditions. Is there an easy link to go to see what those are?
We actually have pretty good documentation on learn.microsoft.com. I'll make sure it's in the chat. That references all of the things we do on protection in shared.
Excellent. I'll send that on to
Thank
our
you.
general
Sutton
counsel.
has got yeah. Sutton's got the copy paste button on rapid fire. So thank you for that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, it's in there. You'll find I pinned the message too with the announcement, the general documentation. That's the privacy and protections link. And I've also pasted in the chat a little bit up a link to the paper that kind of walks through the approach to responsible AI with the new Bing. So maybe we can kind of collect those and make sure we send them all out after too.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it looks
Any
like there's
final
another question from Tyler in the chat. Is
questions?
there a plan to
Yes.
allow customers to train BCE on enterprise data in the future?
I'm so glad you asked. That is what Microsoft 365 Copilot is for. We train our data purely on what's on the web. When you add Microsoft 365 Copilot to that, you basically are leveling up that capability to include also all the information inside your organization.
Great to hear. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Steve, can we have Copilot in September?
I'll write that down.
There's one other one. Jan, is BC using real-time data or archived as of a certain point?
It's a great question. It is real-time data. So you can ask questions of BCE about the news today, about sports scores of games that are in progress right now. It is up to the minute. This is actually one of the big distinctions between what we do and what GPT-4 does. GPT-4 is only trained on data from the last, I think, 18 months ago. It doesn't know anything more current than that. We will give you answers about things right now, and we will also cite our sources so you can click on a link and see where that data came from. That's often useful, not just so you know how to find out more information, but also because sometimes generative AI services are not always 100% accurate. And so it's useful to know where that data might have come from, or even what it thinks it's referencing.
And is there any control or setting that would need to be configured in Intune or the C5 admin once it's on?
Once it's on, well, I should say let's include a link to the instructions for how to enable for the Learn documentation. It's a very straightforward process. I think the only thing that may need to be turned on is Microsoft Search and Bing. But once that's enabled and you've clicked on the activation link, it is enabled for your whole tenant within about 24 hours.
I haven't seen, I'm sure there's more questions coming in the chat. I haven't seen Marge today on this call, which is slightly surprising. However, she has been asking if there was a way to turn it on for a small subset for a pilot group or something along those lines the last couple of weeks during questions. Is that an option?
Yeah, to my point earlier, within I think the first week of September, I've got to go check the exact date. We should have enabled a set of user and group level controls that come with adding a Bing Chat Enterprise Service Plan. That'll be something you'll get notified about in your M365 Admin Center. If you go and look at any recent posts there, it should communicate the moment when that service plan is available. And then you can basically assign that service plan to specific users and groups that you want to give access to, or don't, withdraw it from certain users you don't want to give access to.
Fantastic. September is tomorrow. So very excited.
It's very close. I think it's next week. I've got to go check. I was thinking, is it the 5th? I think it may be the 5th.
So the first full week is next week, friends. So definitely pay attention to that admin portal and keep an eye out for those updates, because I know that they will be coming fast and furious there. So we are grateful to have this team. I'm sure in the next weeks we will have more questions. So Jared, Sutton, Mike, be ready. We might be sending them back your way in the future.
Please do. Please do. I promise to have better audio next time.
Really quick, team, can I make a quick note on Bing and the way that BCE works with Safe Search? So if you are familiar with Bing Chat, if you've been using it in the personal context, just as if you're signed in with an MSA, you probably, if you used it as an MSA within your school setting and you had Safe Search enabled in Microsoft Edge, which this was previously released for, or if that was enforced by policy, etc., then Bing Chat may have prompted you for a warning and said, hey, this won't work with your current Safe Search settings. BCE actually solves for this. So this is really good to now enable for your organization to kind of get over that hump of the Safe Search being an issue. I know Dwayne and I were kind of chatting back and forth as we were enabling this in our demo tenants, and it took a little bit longer than 24 hours in some cases. In fact, I had to go back and re-enable it. So play around with it, and if you start utilizing it today, just kind of watch it and make sure you're getting the experience that you need. The other thing that we're kind of tracking, and I don't have a lot of details on it, but I want to call it out, is that a member on our team identified that if you're using a particular Windows SKU, so if it's Windows Education or Pro for Education, Safe Search is automatically enforced at the Windows level for Microsoft Edge, and so BCE is it still prompts you with, Safe Search will prevent you from using BCE. So just a call out there. I think on Windows Enterprise and other SKUs, we don't have that issue, but specifically it affected education tenants, and we're still exploring that a little bit. So if we can get that resolved, we'll let you all know. But if you do enable that today, you have those SKUs, you might see that warning message. But again, I think BCE is going to solve for a lot of the Safe Search issues that we've seen with the first release of Bing Chat in the personal browser. And this also comes into play if you have Bing in the classroom. So if you have the DNS entry in whether it's in the host file or you're using DNS to rewrite any traffic going out to bing.com, Safe Search is then enacted there too. And so BCE will now work in those districts that have Bing in the classroom enabled. So just a little tidbit on Safe Search as we've been exploring it.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Next week, we are going to give you some examples on some different ways that you can use Power Platform. So 2 different ways that you can think about it. We did some back in like the spring, gave you some examples and ideas on things that you could do and create. So we've got 2 new ones for next week. So we'll send out that email, and we look forward to seeing you next week on, what is it, the 7th, September 7th. So everybody have a fabulous long weekend. Stay safe, enjoy yourselves, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.